this off.
Yeah.
Are you recording on here? No.
DJ Khaled. The keys to success is watering your garden, because you know the plants need life.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, I think we're all set. With the clapping and stuff. All right, so welcome to episode 5 of the In Podcast, a sometimes weekly show where two guys meet up and just talk about. Well, recently it's been more tech than anything else, but we talk about a lot of other things. But you'll probably get more tech this week.
So here today we have.
Well, I'm your host Yasser, and I'm joined here by my co-host
Jose.
All right,
I need to remind my host that we have actual bodies attached to our voices.
Yeah, I forget about that sometimes, but
you gotta remind the listeners who they're listening to, because otherwise they think that we're Joe Rogan and
yeah,
because we're that awesome.
Yeah. Well, in that case, our viewership is gonna go up like by a lot.
Hashtag Joe Rogan.
Hashtag Ask Whipcast. So, let's see.
We have the same setup as last time because it worked out wonderfully.
Yeah, so for the first time, we have the same setup for 2 episodes in a row.
Albeit it probably looks a little more shitty because we're a little more careless, but it's nice. It still works.
We do what we can. So wow, that's crazy. 4 episodes in, 5 more episodes until 10. I'm doing math now.
Grade math.
Wow, we can actually refer to other episodes now. Okay, guys, welcome to the In Podcast. Without further ado, I think we're gonna actually jump in straight into our topics, which we haven't done for a long time.
Yeah. Oh well, let's first acknowledge. So we have episode 4 was our first podcast episode that was on video.
Yes, on YouTube.
Video was released on YouTube. Super dope.
Yes.
Produced by the very own host Yasser. Did the thing. Now we're gonna.
It's the first time I actually look at the camera. Like last time we recorded, and I had no idea the camera was even there, so I'm lucky I didn't like pick my boogers or anything or like do anything.
Yeah. So that's the reason I bring it up, because now we know for sure that we're going to be using the video podcast as it's a medium now, because it exists on the internet. You can't erase it now.
Yeah.
So we might as well acknowledge
the camera's right there. Yeah.
All right. Now we don't have to look at it anymore.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
All right. So,
thank you to anybody on our social media pages, like on Instagram. We got a couple likes on some of the pictures that we did. We shared some of our setups, some behind the scenes stuff, and you guys seem to enjoy that. And we're gonna keep on trucking with our social media. That's I forgot all our handles. We're gonna have to put that in the description. But
on Twitter, you can find us on Twitter at
Whipcast_radio. That's the only one I remember.
You can find us on Instagram at Whipcast. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/WhipcastRadio. Gmail.
What's our Instagram? Is it also Whipcast Radio?
No, it's just Whipcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're the originals on Instagram, which is the only social media that seems to matter nowadays.
Yeah, for real.
So hashtag Whipcast, hashtag Ask Whipcast if you have any questions.
And you can find the recorded episode on youtube.com/ because
youtube.com/ and then insert just overdub.
Yeah. Actually getting
link in the annotation.
Yeah, for real.
Right here.
Getting an actual branded YouTube page is, I think we have to require some minimum channel standards.
We need, and it's public information. I don't think we're infringing on it. We need like 100 subs. You need like 100 subscribers. We need like 400,000 likes. You need X amount of videos on there.
So with your help, we can get there.
Yeah. So be sure to go on iTunes and find the podcast. Give us a 5-star review.
Yeah.
We really appreciate the ratings. It helps the show. It helps us get more exposure. It helps us keep putting out content that the users will like.
Oh yeah.
And make sure to keep up the subscribe. So your friends.
Just share with everybody you know, and we're all about making a little community here and of like-minded individuals, and just like we share with you our thoughts, we would like the same for you guys to do with us. If you guys have actual topics that you guys want us to talk about, hey, shoot us a link and we might talk about it on the show.
Yeah. And if you don't want to just throw it out into the openness, you can send us an email, whipcastradio@gmail.com.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
we'll have links to everything.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be correct.
So Yasser mentioned that it seems like we've been drifting into more of a tech podcast, and this holds true because today's topics are generally revolving around technology, and most of them are actually intertwining with each other. So it's going to just be like a huge conversation and just a diarrhea of the mouth on this super conglomerate. Hate this time.
We're known to ramble sometimes.
So right off the bat, one of the things that we saw a lot of news involving and revolving around Amazon. And it's weird to say because Amazon has so many things going on, but they're similar to Google in a sense because before they're
big players.
Before they did the whole like alphabet thing, everything was like Google this, Google Mail, Google Books, Google blah, blah, blah. So Amazon has a bunch of services like that, and it's, Amazon Web Services or Amazon something else. They have all these things going on. And Yasser had brought up something saying that Amazon is now looking to become a player in the logistics game. So if anybody knows logistics, the face of logistics is UPS.
Yeah. And all that means for anybody who doesn't actually even know what logistics mean is just from point A to point B. Like, what is that process? So, like, let's say you order something on Amazon. What does it take for that item that you just ordered on the internet to get from wherever it is to wherever you are? That's what that whole process is. Oh, no. We are not professional.
We have a listener calling it.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm sorry, I just hung up on our listener, but we're not taking any live calls right now.
So one of the important things that had come up in logistics, and I want to say recently because it's only been, 15, 20 years since the internet's actually mattered. But UPS made it easy so that companies are able to track their shipments. At first it was all B2B, but then they started to let the consumers actually see what was going on. And then, soon USPS started following suit and whatever shipment company you have in your country, because we have global listeners. But now Amazon's been doing so many things, and I want to mention eBay too, because eBay's dope. They started doing like their same day, like, well, you remember when they came out with that?
I think they have a partnership.
2 hour minimum. Like if you order something, you can get it in like less than 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah. And I think they're partnered with. I believe they're partnered with an app, which is a company who also facilitates with like just I guess it's kind of like a consumer to consumer shipping, which is mostly like what eBay is, like a marketplace of people to other people. And I think it's called Ship. That's like SHYP or something like that.
How original.
And and they have a partnership with them, and that's apparently really helped it because people might not realize, but fulfillment is like a pretty big thing in the whole getting like one of my items over to like, let's say your house. Yeah. And fulfillment is just that whole process of just taking the order, seeing what item somebody is ordering, doing the right packaging and the right shipping address and sending it out. And Ship really helps them with that stuff. And like you said, they're able to do that really, really fast now.
Yeah. You remember when it was also in the news that Amazon is going to start opening up brick and mortar stores?
I did hear that.
You remember that?
Yeah, I did hear that.
Did that ever happen? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Maybe
I think
they're still doing like dry runs or something all over.
Amazon is doing so many things. And
you remember that thing?
Yeah, like the whole they have this whole division called I always forget what it's called. It's like Blue Sky or something like that, and it's kind of like their competitor to SpaceX.
Oh yeah,
and they're developing their own rockets.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that in the podcast before too. Yeah, I remember that.
They're doing that. They're doing the drone delivery, and it's slowly becoming a thing, which is kind of crazy. Just seeing a drone fly out, and
yeah,
the technology on that, as you guys all know, when a technology first springs up, it's almost like you can kind of roll your eyes at it and be like, yeah, that's not going to be consumer ready in like 20 years or something. Mm-hmm. But then it gets closer and closer. And
it's not a game anymore. People own drones and they're flying them in the park.
Exactly.
Without permits and stuff.
And it's funny because in the past, it used to be just kind of like companies like Nerf and like Airhawk would do like little toy helicopters. Wow. Yeah. Little toy helicopters. Right, and, I don't know whether or not they had cameras or not, but that was kind of like the precursor to what we have now. And we're calling it drones now and not little toy helicopters. And now it's a thing now.
It's a thing.
And now they might deliver your packages now.
Yeah,
up to 5 pounds for now.
Is that what it is? I saw those things are huge. They're like that's probably the size of this, maybe bigger than this table. No, I saw a video where it was like taken off. It had like a silo kind of thing, like the ground opened up and then it was like carrying diapers.
Rey Mysterio just comes out,
yeah, and it was shipping this thing. But it's weird. Like I don't know what is it going to be shipping packages to your doorstep, or is it taking these to like?
Probably, yeah. I mean that's what Amazon wants.
Are these being piloted, or is these like Google cars?
Autonomous. It's kind of like it's kind of, I guess, the same concept that the military is using with their drones, where I mean
they're piloted though.
Yeah, they can have piloted ones, but like they'll have ones where they're just designed to just like circulate a specific area, and they don't really need a pilot for that. So just imagine if the pilot or whatever puts in the coordinates ahead of time, then that thing knows exactly where it needs to go, and they don't really, there's very minimal oversight in there.
But then I wonder, like, what API are they using? Google Maps?
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of whatever.
Some super DARPA GPS stuff.
Whatever,
top secret.
Yeah, whatever GPS system they're going to try to use. I mean, you can say, oh, I've used Google Maps and it's perfect. It's flawless. I've used Waze, which is also owned by Google. I'll use Apple Maps and it sent me to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, yeah. I'm swimming now. I was trying to go to Best Buy.
Yeah. Or you put in, I don't remember what it was. Somebody tried to put driving directions to like China, and the map told them to just go all the way through, like through Australia.
Oh, boy, drive straight up into the clouds.
Yeah. And then I think it was Google. Google actually told them to like go to the edge of the state they were in and then canoe across. Yeah. Anyways, so Amazon is trying to get into this.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because last week we actually spoke about how some companies have like when we had spoken about Apple and their walled garden and controlling end-to-end control, and as also with Android, they're moving into that trend also. And
the mobile devices.
Yeah, I kind of like uttered like, doesn't that sound like a monopoly? And it kind of sounds with Amazon here where, they're controlling delivery now too. It's like
no one takes them. You know, it's crazy. They're not in the news though.
Yeah.
About they're gonna take over the world. Blah robots and stuff.
Should UPS panic now, or like what are they left to do? It's kind of like Amazon as a tech company has proven to show that they have either data-driven analytics, and the way they work as a company is very data-based. And I just realized that sounded like database, but anyways, it's
hashtag data-based
for real. Data-based God. Okay.
Yes.
But I just realized that a tech-driven company is so like, they know how to streamline things. And I know we talked about in the past where like their warehouses had like these autonomous robots that are just like sorting things in the warehouse and kind of like, whenever you guys think about that whole thing where people are panicking about how automation might take over people's jobs and all this is kind of one of those things where you guys should look at and say, what is Amazon doing here? And especially now that they're all, I think they were approved by the US. One of their subsidiaries got approved to be like a shipping partner and stuff. And slowly but surely, they're trying to control like every aspect of, not only are they going to provide you the product or the service, but they're also going to provide the delivery and the means for it to get to you. I was actually surprised by that and on the other note, I was also not surprised by it, but it was kind of like I bought something and like I opened the door and it's an Amazon guy. I'm like, this is
that's a thing. I've seen the cars, like the Amazon brand, that they're not even like huge trucks. They just look like a little minivan or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they're selling empanadas out the car.
And I'm like, he's not wearing brown. Like,
was he in street clothes?
No, he's just wearing like Amazon gear. I don't even know what that even means, but it's like it was a delivery guy, but he was clearly from Amazon, and I'm like, is this
awesome.
what they're doing? And it's kind of like, you hear these technologies blend, and the possibility of also Uber becoming a delivery company, and
I haven't heard about that, but that'd be a smart.
And how they have this whole network of drivers, and what if they just also happen to deliver stuff? Also,
they might as well, but they're not taking people anywhere.
Yeah, and And that whole concept of, and also the concept of them wanting to have driverless cars, so now they don't actually have to pay the driver either. So
that's a whole new level of took our jobs.
Yeah,
you either work for Uber or you don't work for because their machines are working already.
So things are becoming increasingly interesting in the fact that these companies are what the buzzword is disruptive, and what they're doing is they're taking these stagnant companies that have grown to billions of dollars, have gotten used to not innovating because they didn't have any competition. And now these tech companies are stepping in and saying, oh yeah, you know that whole taxi thing? Yeah, we can create an app and control a fleet of people anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You know,
overnight almost.
Yeah, you know that whole hotel thing? Well, we can, a lot of people own homes. We can have people rent out their own homes, and
people like people.
Yeah, all we have to do is supply a platform and people do it themselves. We don't even have to do anything.
You know, there's also a dog sitting service that's the same exact way.
Of course,
yeah. My girlfriend, she ran into it. She was like, "How can I make some extra money? I like dogs." And then she went online and it's like, "Oh, cool, you could become a dog sitter overnight."
Of course you can.
And people just go on. It's like a Facebook. You'd be like, "Oh yeah, can you watch my dog over the weekend?" And it's like, "Yeah, sure," and then they'll pay you.
Yeah, this whole, I forgot what the actual formal term is, but it's kind of like the whole making that as a service where
life as a service.
Yeah, like where anybody can just be like, oh yeah, I have the time or the capital to pursue that. Why not?
It's crazy because that's all still considered business to consumer.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, I on one hand, I like to think of this whole concept of, obviously there's going to be people like in the taxi industry, they're obviously upset about things like this. I'm sure the hotel industry,
were rioting in Europe before.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, it got pretty dirty, but and I'm pretty sure the hotel industry is not very happy about the whole thing. You know, they're looking for a way. Obviously these companies are settled in their ways. They don't really want to use technology as leverage to improve as a company. And then companies like Airbnb will come out of nowhere and take their candy. But I've always been a believer of, you just can't stop innovation. I know these things are happening and perhaps they don't have the most perfect outcome for these, but this is just kind of the natural progression of just kind of where we should go. This whole belief that this company should have all this power, and granted, we're just kind of like moving it from one company to another, but in a very different way, because we're seeing real innovation. This has never happened before. Nobody with a home ever thought like, they never had the confidence to do it themselves, but now they have this app and now they can actually rent their homes. People who, like, I'm not even going to talk about the legitimacy of Uber or how it's made people millionaires. I don't really know any of those facts. I just know that people who needed a quick job or something didn't have it before and had to go through all these things just to do it. And now they have Uber, and it's facilitated their lives to the point where they can make a living out of it.
Yeah, and it's also interesting too, because like, you know, if you look into it, there are lots of people that were almost forced into retirement. And I'm sure that everybody knows that one older person who decided to retire and now they don't know what to do with themselves, so they try to keep busy.
Yeah.
I know of, at least I've met a good handful of Uber drivers who are just, you know, guys trying to make an extra buck because they have free time now and they're retired.
Yeah.
They figured they might as well help somebody else out if they need a ride.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool how it's giving people the opportunity to do something that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, they probably could have, but there would have been legal ramifications.
There's so many barriers of entries, because I think that's the big thing that these companies are able to do. Like, not anybody could be a hotel. Like, there's standards for all of that. Apparently not anybody can be a taxi driver.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of standards there, but you know, bringing those walls down and allowing it so that, hey, all you need is a car, and that's it. You sign up, and then all of a sudden you're earning money. And like, prior to that, like we've talked about before, how we were born like during the whole time where the internet was becoming a thing, and how life before us had none of that.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where it's like, before us, Who would like you would have told somebody, oh, somebody's gonna make a service where anybody can be a taxi driver if they wanted to. They would just look at you like you're crazy. They'd be like, oh, these are all the legal stuff you have to jump through
Yeah.
and all this stuff you
All the
have to.
naysayers
Yeah.
would come out of the woodwork.
And now it's kind of like things have just taken a natural progression and have moved away from that huge like monolithic kind of company where it's like closed walls everywhere to like, oh, if you want to try and do this, you can if you want to. And it's a platform that allows other people to do things.
So wait, so going along that same idea, do you feel that Amazon is almost like a sleeper agent in the game? So they didn't intend to do all of the stuff that they're doing right now.
They started as a book company.
Amazon was almost a failure when it started.
They started as a book company.
They now, without you even thinking, they now own the products industry of the internet.
Yeah. And
they also provide back-end technologies for a good chunk of the software providers that you think of right now. Because we were talking about this pre-show, but a big name that you'd probably all know, Netflix, has just finished transitioning all of their back-end service to the Amazon Web Service Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So now, whenever you use Netflix, you're using Amazon somehow.
Yeah.
And although there are other companies that do things like that, like Apple's got their iCloud thing. I don't know whether or not they use that for business purposes.
I wonder.
Google's got their cloud going on.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft's got their Azure cloud, which is super dope. And yeah,
but Amazon is such a big player though, and so is Netflix. Like, there's like, especially in the US, if you mention Netflix, it's almost like it's so ubiquitous that it's kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna Netflix this show, or I'm gonna binge watch 30 episodes of like Breaking Bad or whatever. I don't even know if there's that many episodes out, but whatever. It's kind of like Netflix is so big, and
it's almost like.
And by extension, it makes Amazon really big because all of it
Netflix is a little thing in the picture, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah. It's just kind of crazy how, like you said, Amazon didn't start off as what it is now. And we were talking also pre-show how I was just kind of watching just random documentaries and how just companies like Google, startup, and Microsoft, and we never, like, there's a huge craze in keeping track of startups and these unicorns, these plus billion-dollar valuation companies, and they're so focused on those startups, and I think very seldom do people even consider, wow, a company like Microsoft was a startup at some point. At one point, they needed to raise money. A company like Google started off with 2 people and had to build their way up. And I was talking to Jose how most people just click on whatever browser of choice and they just go to Google and they're like, yeah, that's the internet. Like Google has been there as long as the internet.
And you're having network connectivity issues even to the experts. Oh, do you know if the computer can access the internet now? I don't know. Let me check. Google.com.
Yeah. And Google is almost synonymous at this point with the internet. And it's like very rarely do people realize that they start off as just 2 people. And it's just kind of amazing how a company can just rapidly expand to the point where, like we mentioned in another episode, not only does Google do like the regular search, which is known for, it does photos, it does email, it does military stuff, artificial intelligence, contact lenses that can measure your glucose level, Google Glass, all these things. And it's kind of like, what are you? Like, what did you evolve into? Like, how did this even happen? How do you all of a sudden you go from 2 employees to 200,000 employees? How does,
at least.
Yeah. And it's just kind of incredible seeing how humble the beginnings are of these little companies. And when you grow into something like Amazon, where you're working with Netflix now, and it only just makes them bigger. And we have no idea, like, what the future will bring in regards to how much more they'll control. Like we just talked about, they're starting to control logistics now, and who knows, like what would even be their next step? Like how high can they reach?
Yeah, and the one of the more interesting things I think than even that is the fact that any other company. So let's say like we were to create a Whipcast app,
Yeah.
We can use Amazon Web Services. That can be our host to host everything. I mean, a good percentage of all of the apps that exist on the Play Store, on the App Store, or whatever, they're also hosted by this Amazon Web Service. So regardless of whether or not you're touting them to be this thing, like, you're using this platform to get your message across, or your idea to like the consumers, they're touching something that
it's kind of like we spoke
using.
with Samsung with the chips and stuff, where where their chips are everywhere, and it's like you don't even realize these companies are so huge that they're outside of your personal bubble. Like their existence is so ubiquitous that you don't even realize you're using them at this point. And I don't know what to think about it. It's like, it's definitely awesome, all the stuff that they're doing. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I sometimes wonder, like, what would just happen if I remember on the History Channel back when all they talked about was apocalyptic stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, one of the things they had mentioned was, what if somebody did like an EMP blast on the United States? Oh, do you know how
like
much
Twilight Zone episode?
Yeah, like, what if they cut off all electronics, like everything? Just like they just sent a post like from New York to California and wiped out all of our electronics.
Well, I mean, that would probably cause more nuclear disasters than we would like.
Yeah,
because all that's controlled by our electronics as well.
But I don't even, like, we've spoken around, like, a common theme in like our podcast is how increasingly involved technology is in our daily lives, and how much panic would there even be if all of a sudden none of our one blast and we're in the Stone Age.
Yeah.
And what do? You don't.
Well, I mean, I remember even like here on the East Coast, there was the blackout of 2002. I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't remember when it happened.
Yeah.
But like people didn't know what to do back then before technology was part of their brains. You know, people wake up now and the first thing they do is they check their phone, they check their email, they check their text messages, they go on Instagram without even thinking.
Yeah.
What is life?
They're just gonna wake up and just look at the ceiling now, and they're like, "Well, I guess I'm not going to work today."
Yeah. And you can't do anything.
Yeah,
unless you're.
None of the car batteries are working.
Yeah, you can't.
Like, nothing.
Oh crap.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's kind of
You can't even doctor at that point.
Yeah, people like to like hypothesize different apocalyptic situations, like comets coming in and dinosaurs somehow coming back,
zombies.
And yeah, all this other stuff. But rarely do you hear something that's way more plausible than all of that and way more disruptive than any of that, and that's taken away our electronics. And I can already imagine some of the older guys like, oh, back in my day we didn't listen. You didn't have your beeper either. Like you're not, none of it. I'm talking none of it. Like, it really does put us back in the Stone Age, because
that's exactly what it is.
Because
it's scary to even think about.
Because the technology we have now has only been built on top of everything else that we've created. Like, I'm sorry, we don't have electricity, so we don't have computers, we don't have lights, we don't have anything that's powered by electricity, including the cool Tesla car you just liked the other day. That's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And or even the battery in your car, that's not gonna power anything in there. And it's kind of
so trippy. You can't even talk about that. It's so freaking weird.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to scare you guys here, but just food for thought. Let us know what you think. Tweet us some questions at #AskWhipcast on Twitter, and we'll answer your questions live. And just let us know some of your concerns, like how would you react if you just found out the next day that there was no power?
And also, how would you take advantage of it? So who would be that one guy that would say, I know exactly what I could do to
would
make
you be an innovator
off of this day?
Yeah,
like,
when
the electricity stopped.
I'm going to start a steam company.
Steampunk would come back.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. All right, so moving along.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more you had to say about logistics.
No, we're good.
Did you mention that you saw a dude come to your doorstep and he had an Amazon uniform?
Yeah.
And he delivered your package?
Yeah.
That's weird. I didn't even know that they did that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so going along the same lines, Amazon Web Service was, so they had these Netflix dudes doing I don't know, they were transitioning or something.
Mm-hmm.
So these Netflix developers came up with this idea, and I'm pretty sure that it was made by the Netflix developers. This thing is called the Chaos Monkey, and it's a service
which already sounds pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a sick band too. So this Chaos Monkey thing is it's not part of Amazon Web Services. So what it does is it allows the company or the business or whoever's using this Amazon Web Service, it allows them to opt in to a function that will haphazardly disable a part of your service so that you can find out whether or not you'd be able to come back from that blackout or outage and then be able to, step up and recover gracefully.
Yeah, it's an awesome preventative kind of service because, if you're in a data center, there's a slew of things that could possibly happen, and it's impossible to anticipate any of that stuff happening. So you have to, especially when you have a huge infrastructure, you always have to take into account any point of failure and how to proceed. And usually that happens in the form of redundancy. Like if something happens, that there's another one with the exact same functions that's going to take over and make sure that you're not pulling your hair out or getting a whole bunch of support calls.
Yeah. It's so weird. Going back to it, can you believe that Netflix existed without, I don't even know how, did they have a cloud service provider before going over to AWS?
I think what they were doing is just having their own data centers.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Crap. Maybe that's why Australia and stuff didn't have it until.
Probably. And
worth some research.
It's kind of amazing because do you know how much stuff they're pushing out into the internet? They account for a third of all US traffic. Internet traffic. Yeah, and it's crazy. And they've kind of streamlined their whole process, and they have everything on AWS now. And I think one of the things was it was cheaper for them, and it was a learning process for them. But at least they'll have that single thing, and it helps for their international rollout. Just because I can't even fathom how many servers Amazon has, but they don't have servers. They're just they just it's literally in the clouds. They control all clouds. Yeah.
Well, so Chaos Monkey. It's exactly what you would think it is. It's this little thing that goes around and it turns something off, and then it's here, now what?
So imagine literally putting a monkey in a data center.
Yeah, exactly.
And seeing what would happen.
Yeah. So these guys developed it, and then now it's built into the AWS system, and they were using it because they wanted to make sure that they could bounce back from something if something were to happen. So it's an always on QA team that's just deciding to wreck your ish when you're not looking.
And just imagine a company the size and the scope of Netflix, and like we just said, the amount of traffic they output to everybody is a pretty big deal, because all it takes is for one monkey to go in there, just unplug a couple things, and you can't watch your episode of whatever you're watching at that moment.
Yeah. And you know what was interesting? Trying to think back to it, I don't think I remember there ever being a Netflix outage.
You see? And it's incredible because they've gone and done that without any updated infrastructure. Or with whatever basement they were using at the time.
Yeah, I don't think Netflix has ever not been up.
Yeah.
Oh, they need an award.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know how much else I wanted to say besides just bring it to light that the fact that, QA is important to all those tech guys trying to think of starting up software and stuff. QA is very, very important and valuable. If you don't QA your stuff, it's going to break somehow, and you're not going to know how to fix it.
And then people are going to get mad at you, and they're going to be mad, especially because it's free, and they feel very entitled to complain about it. And
I downloaded your service. I wasted 4.3 seconds, and it crashed when I opened it. Yeah, so avoid that. Test your stuff.
Yeah.
There's easy ways to test it. Lots of free ways to test your stuff.
Exactly. So are we moving on from testing?
Yeah, we can.
Is this our intermission or no?
It can be. We're about halfway, a little more than halfway.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. This is probably
perfect.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so.
All right, so we'll throw our handles again. So if you're just joining us, because
if this is your very first episode, you're in luck. This is probably the best you'll probably hear us.
Yeah. So I got episode 5 going. I don't know who we decided to harass and get to sponsor us this time around.
Oh, actually, I'm just gonna shout out a podcast that you had referred to me at one point, and I'm gonna get into it.
I thought you were allowed to say that. I don't remember.
Yeah, I want to like kind of like lead into it, and it was just a podcast that you had recommended, and I checked it out for a little while, and then I don't know, for some reason, because things they were kind of on the back burner for a while.
I'm like on the edge of my seat right now.
And then recently I've been listening to more of their stuff, and they're so awesome, and it's kind of like the stuff that we do, and
just tell me you're killing me.
And they
you know exactly what you're doing.
They kind of share like I wouldn't say the same mission or anything, but the fact that they're two guys and they're talking, and basically they have concerns, and the name of the podcast is literally We Have Concerns, and
those guys are awesome.
It's like by Jeff Kanata and Anthony Carboni or something like that, and if I got that spot on, then I'm a beast. But but yeah, We Have Concerns is an awesome podcast by two guys, and they're kind of like philosophical with their approach, and they just either it's user submitted like links or things that they've brought up, but
something they find in the media.
Yeah, they just kind of dissect it from like a psychological point of view and philosophical point of view, and like why we do things and what motivates us to do different things, and that's so right up my alley because I love to just like
ponder on things.
Just think about things and be like, why is it that we do that? Like, why do people like small talk?
How come everybody just thinks of whatever people tell them?
Yeah. But
they're one of the first podcasts I actually listened to.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome, and they're two guys just like us, and spreading that message out there. And I don't know how big they are, but definitely bigger than us. And
definitely got lots of episodes. They've been in the game for a while.
Yeah, and I really like their format. Sometimes they'll go into like little acting skits based off like whatever they were just talking about, and I don't know, they're just kind of cool. So like we said, when we don't have a sponsor, which is most of the time, we'll just recommend a podcast or some media that we find cool, and we just pass it all along to you guys. So
so check out We Have Concerns. Go check out some of their episodes if you can. Give them a rate, leave a comment, let them know that the Whipcast sent you over. And check them out. They're really cool.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to having some other people that we're going to be featuring. This is just kind of a sneak peek, but I'm not even going to say anything about the shirt that I'm wearing right now.
For the dissecting listeners, investigation work.
So time to... But we're looking forward to having some more people that we just share with you guys and share their mission with you guys, and just really... I'd like this to be like two-sided. Like if you guys find anything that you guys think that we should check out, send it by our way, either our email, whatever medium you prefer, send it to us.
We'll see it regardless.
Yeah.
As long as
the point is just sharing cool stuff. So that's what we're doing. So check them out.
There you go. All right. So now let's talk about something else that is very tech-centered. But we saw some articles that were centering around technology impinging things, even as far as language. So language is probably, and I blame Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. If you haven't played it, play that. That's an amazing game.
Yeah, highly recommended.
Language is one of the things that holds humanity together as a whole, and also separates them. In various different areas.
Yeah. Sometimes
even in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember. I think I'll give him credit. I also found an article saying that language is their barriers between languages actually being broken by the different technology mediums that we have today.
Yeah, and one of the articles that Jose brought to me was, I don't even know if it was an actual find as much as it was just a kind of declaration of things to come. And it was more so like, what can we expect in 10, 15, 20 years, and how we see technology advancing, and how that'll change the way that we communicate as people. Because we've already seen the internet has broken 1,000 barriers. I can't even number like how many barriers the internet has broken down, just in terms of, you have a friend, let's say in South America, and as long as both of you guys have internet connection, you can send instant messages, you can video chat, you can do all this stuff. But now I think the new frontier comes with actually breaking the barriers within language. And as we know, I know for sure that Google has developed a whole bunch of stuff, and it's
Have
so
you
amazing.
Have you used the app? Oh man, so I think it's the Translate app. So if you
yes, whatever you're gonna say, yes.
So what it does is it'll go. You download it on your device, and then it works with your camera. You can point your camera at let's say Ayas's shirt, and it'll translate it whatever
in
it
real
says,
time.
In real time to whatever language you want it to translate to, and it's very good at what it does because you could probably take a screenshot and it'll look like it was written in the translated language.
It's amazing, and
it's fake. I don't want to believe it. It's so good. It just works.
So good. It's fake.
Yeah.
They're lying.
I don't want to believe it because it just works so well.
It's so amazing, and I think the fact that if you guys are in a language class right now, I think
drop it.
If you guys are in a language class right now, I think you guys have been the beneficiaries of Google Translate and how valuable that has been. Let us know if you guys have ever used that to study, because just this whole concept of even aside from the whole image thing, just it's Google Translate service in general, just typing something in your language and just seeing it like in real time, just translate into something else. I think we take that for granted.
Yeah, and also having like an audio example of whatever you're typing too.
That's another thing. And
virtual Microsoft Sam is just gonna say whatever you want to hear in whatever language you want to get.
Yeah, and they've recently, or I don't know how recently, but they acquired this company called Duolingo, and
Did they really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, that was for a while has been part of like the whole Google thing, and
I downloaded their app. I was trying to learn French for a while, for like a week and a half.
I mean, yeah, whether it's effective or not, they are definitely in the language game, and
no way.
I just think it's so interesting how in the future, like one of the things the article had been saying was that just imagine you have an earpiece and you're speaking to somebody in another language, and the only delay and what you hear is the speed of sound. So that sound from that person's voice is going into whatever earpiece you have, and that earpiece is translating it in real time into your language.
That's crazy.
What? What?
So now there's no reason for you to not want to go over to, let's say, Beijing to travel and explore something.
Yeah, you have no excuse.
You can go over there and experience the culture and be exactly where you want to be. I mean, granted, people will know that you're a foreigner.
Yeah.
But you can go there and enjoy yourself and not feel confused to ask where the bathroom is,
and obviously
order something from the menu.
Language is such a nuanced thing. There's like so many inflections and dialects, and just there's a lot of intricacies to nailing language right. But the belief of this article is that in 10 to 15 years, this is going to be something that's borderline mastered, and I can't even, like, I love how technology has found kind of a loophole to the whole language dilemma. Like, okay, I know English. I want to speak to somebody who lives in India, but they only know Urdu or Hindi, and I want to speak to them, but I can't because they can't understand me. The loophole is just me, like, either of us putting that earpiece on, and I'm going to talk in English, and it's going to sound to him like I'm speaking in Urdu, and he's going to speak in Urdu, and it's going to sound like English to me. How amazing is that? Or just imagine like a Skype situation in which you're Skyping with somebody, and
wait, hold on. I don't know if it was Skype. Someone,
I feel like that was a thing.
Yeah, maybe it was the Citrix guys. They were trying to develop this weird technology where it would do the same exact thing. So you're having a video conference call or something with another business. Let's say you're talking to Japan.
Yeah.
And your company's, talking with these guys, and you guys don't speak the same language. I think they were working on some kind of tech that would translate.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And encode like with the video and send it over. And you guys can communicate. If
you see the level of progress that we've had so far, it only makes you hopeful for whatever's going to come 20 years from now. Just think about it.
How do you get past that?
Like we said, the internet itself wasn't even much of a thing 20 years ago.
Thank you, DARPA.
And what's going to happen 20 years from now? Like, what is going to be the new thing? Like, how are we going to manipulate language in a way where I can go anywhere now and just speak to anybody and use the power of technology to almost be a local there?
Yeah.
The only difference will be that I look different, but I think it's going to blur the lines in culture. It's going to blur the lines in language.
It's going to create so many opportunities too.
Yeah. And this is one of those things where last week we were kind of dystopian with what some technologies can do and how there's holes and there's always an avenue for so much danger to happen. But this is one of those things that still keeps me, my head above the water in terms of, there's hope. Like technology really is there to improve the world. And this is one of those things it's going to do.
Yeah. All right. So along the same vein, so technology is helping to tether people together from across different nations, languages, and X, Y, and Z. So some of our governmental bodies have actually agreed in saying that students that are in school should have the option of learning a software language as opposed to a cultural language. So instead of going in and trying to learn Spanish, French, Mandarin,
insert whatever language you want.
Yeah, you can learn.
And then C++, Python, Ruby,
or Java. How cool is that? You can go in. I mean, granted, they'll have to have some kind of computer background, but I mean, now 5-year-olds are playing with iPads better than the 30-year-olds that are walking around our city.
And one of the I guess controversial things is, but anytime you introduce something new, there's going to be some pushback from traditional people.
Dissonance.
All
the time.
There'll be people that are like, because when I read this article, like the people who were against it kind of took it as, it's either this or that. So it's like if you do take the language, then it's instead of the foreign language. And
as though you can't spend like the 45 minutes that you spend watching TV to learn a word.
And here's the thing, like I implore the audience to mention to us, like, we know that the whole language thing is mandatory, but I'd like them to actually like analyze and think whether or not that was useful for them in the long run.
Oh, like learning a language in school?
Yeah. At any point. Like, were they ever in it? Were they ever motivated? Like, even if they got an A, like how much do you use that language now? Yeah. Because there's all this talk about, I want to learn another language, but I plan to live in the US all my life. Okay, how exactly are you going to use that?
Yeah.
And unless your job is literally to translate, which, listen, if your job is being a translator, Google has some words for you.
Shout out to all the translators who use Google.
Yeah,
who
for
have
real.
Those built-in earpieces already.
Yeah, I think definitely the whole, due to technology and especially what we have just mentioned, learning a language in general is starting to become less important. And that's not to say that, it shouldn't be an option. Hey, if you want to learn French, go ahead and learn French. That's fine. By the same token, I also think the power in this is giving options, because prior there was no options. So I like the ability that I can say, hey, do I want to learn French or Java? Like I like that ability. Like I don't even care if the students actually go in and do that, because I know there's plenty of talks and the president has gone out to say how we need more computer science majors and all this other stuff. And
you're right about giving them the opportunity.
Yeah, like I've never been a believer in, we need tech, so let's shove it down everybody's throat and hope everybody becomes a computer scientist. No, I've never been in agreement with that. If you're really not into that, don't force yourself to be into that, because it'll manifest itself in your life eventually that you hate this and you're going to break out of it. If you don't like it, don't do it. But like I've said, I do believe in giving them an option, because before it really was your only options was like French, Italian, and whatever was left. And if you were one of those kids who wanted to learn that, then that's fine. But if you were somebody who wanted to actually learn computer skills early on, like we were just talking about, companies like Google started off as a startup. Companies like Microsoft started off as a startup. Tell Bill Gates how important it was that he understood all those computer stuff early on. When he was young. And versus a language, right? Now, I'm not trying to slam the language through the floor and say, this is completely useless. But there's something to be said for learning computer skills early on, especially as we keep touting how increasingly involved technology is in our lives. At least there should be a minimal level of understanding in the things that we're using, right? Because
it really should almost be like a requirement.
Yeah.
In most cases.
You see, and that's the thing, like that there's always going to be a continual struggle between what should the young people of either this country or really any country in this world, what should they be learning? And a lot of times I feel like decisions are made and very little thought is given to how is this going to be useful in the future?
Well,
because
in most cases, it's just the old guard trying to do things the way that they've been done forever. They don't really want change.
And that's the problem, because technology, once again, is proven to be that disruptive force and saying, education itself is being revamped. This whole possibility of education like on demand, where you can just go anywhere and you can learn whatever you want. Like, you want to learn something, you Google it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like in the future, we're going to be seeing a lot more people, like you'll be able to ask them like, hey, when you graduated, where do you think you learned the majority of your skills? Was it in school or was it things that you learned on your own? And there's countless YouTube videos where I've seen, and obviously, this is anecdotal and it doesn't represent everything, but I don't think this is too far off from like what is actually happening. And it's that they'll see somebody, and because it's on demand, you get to pick exactly what it is that you want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the video is done, you'll see a comment that is like, wow, I learned more in these 8 minutes of you explaining this than I had in my entire semester taking this same class.
And I'd have to agree, because I was one of those people back in college.
And it's not to be denied the power and the influence of that. And I have seen like between I don't know if you heard this company called Udacity, where they kind of offer
subscribe to them actually.
They offer classes themselves. And listen, them as kind of like innovators in this field, they don't see traditional technology as the enemy. They kind of like, they realize that there's a gap in what traditional education can do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking to actually partner with you guys, or I'm saying you guys, like the audience or all teachers. With educators in really offering the best possible solution for students, because options is really like we've talking about, options is like possibly the best thing that you can have. Like one of the least things you want to do is restrict what a child wants to learn, and
that's such a good point.
And have it so rigid to the point where you're like, oh yeah, you can only learn this, and we want you to learn this, and that person will grow up wondering why.
Yeah.
They'll graduate.
Well, they might not even wonder. They might just believe it and say, I learned this because it's the way that things are.
Yeah. And there's probably people already doing that. And and that's the problem, that thinking, how like when people are young, they like to think that like all the grown-ups, they know everything.
Yeah.
And this whole concept of like, oh yeah, my parents know everything there is to know about everything. And then you grow up and you're like, these were people just trying to figure it out just like I was.
Yeah.
And
I was telling myself the same thing at my age or whatever.
Yeah. And you don't realize until that point that like a lot of things outside of you were being controlled, and you didn't realize that there is no straight path to anything, right? There's the familiar path, which is, the traditional, there's the smart advice, right? You go to school, you do what you have to do in school, you get a job, but that's not the only one. And I know a lot of times, people who have gotten successful from not going to school, one of the first things they get is like, oh, is college necessary and stuff? And most of the time they're just kind of forced to default to like, listen, if like you have to go into anything with kind of like an open mind. If you know that it's not feasible for you to go in there and you're just going to be in tons of debt and there's not going to get anything out of it, maybe you want to consider either going light on it or not going through that route at all. But it's kind of like, ultimately it's not an easy question to answer. Like it's not black or white. But
I mean, in the end, it really just rolls out to, will you benefit from it? And
yeah,
if you won't, what's your plan? If you don't have a plan, you're not going to be able to succeed in whatever you decide to do, whether it's your idea or school.
yeah. Will you come out with the necessary things required? How can you offer value to a company? That's all they're going to pay you for. Can you offer value, and how are you going to do that? If you really feel like you're wasting your time and money, because boy, these years, a lot of money is being wasted on that. Money that you're going to be paying for a long time. It really is something to think about. But yeah, so just to wrap that point up, I do believe just in the option of, do I want to take Java or French? I like that the option is there. I'm all about options. And I think that when they see the results of this kind of stuff, they'll realize that maybe they should be more open with some of the stuff that they show, because there's a reason there's a lack of people learning this kind of stuff, because they don't get into college, at which point they've already had so many biases in their head from the ground up that they don't have the capacity to learn stuff at such a deep level. You have to take advantage of when your brain is still a sponge and is just absorbing every new detail and is so excited. Like when you hear the CEO of like any of these big tech startups, they're like, yeah, like at 12 or 14, I was just hacking away. Yeah, hacking away and just plugging things into that and just seeing what happens, and building small applications that, detect this. And that's where it starts. They start off small. And I think that is so powerful that it's not fair to strip that away from anyone.
Yeah. So going back to having the opportunity to pick a language, do you know if the major languages like the Javas or the C++ or C# or anything, do you know if those can be written in other languages besides English?
I wonder. I never thought about that.
But while you were giving your points, in my head, one of the and it was slightly malicious, I was thinking, so you want all these people to go off, not learn Italian, not learn French, so that they can learn this computer language that's written in English. And then I just thought, wait, are any other languages written in are any other software languages written in anything besides English? And I'm sure that they are.
But I feel like, especially with programming languages, kind of like, on one end, it's kind of like math, where it's really, math is kind of like a universal language, and you can say X equals 5, and the X could be an English X, or it could be an Arabic X, or whatever, but you're still going to find whatever the answer is. And I feel like programming is just like a framework for solving problems. And I think once you get taught that, hey, you store this value in this variable, and, you run a loop this way.
So
like
symbols versus language.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know, but that is a good point. Like, do they understand what and means, or for, or
right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that is interesting. So if you guys in the comment sections, or
if anybody knows,
how does it
resource, we could talk about it another time.
Yeah, we probably have like an international audience. If you guys are in Japan or anywhere outside of the U.S., how do you
use Google Translate and learn what we're saying?
Yeah. Or if you already know English, let us know how programming works where you guys are from, because we're alien to this topic.
Yeah. And the only reason I thought about it is because of the fact that if we're gonna be straying away the audible version of a language to this digital version of a separate language, what's the structure for it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, in learning all of the software languages that I know now, all of the APIs are meant to make things easier for you. So instead of having numbers and symbols and letters, smaller and truncated, they have actual like phrases for stuff.
Yeah.
And they're built out to be so that there's more function behind this particular small set of characters.
Yeah.
So it'll be like,
so it's more like an abstraction, just to kind of make it so that you're not that deep in the code, but you're just kind of like playing.
And if we're going to start moving in this direction where younger people are able to grasp these software languages,
for sure,
should they be using more granular level technologies, like super like C and stuff, or should they really jump into like the newer, more useful tech? Like if you go into Angular JS or something like that, like it's so easy to look at and understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Granted, you have to have some kind of background, but I mean, and only because I learned it all in English is I don't know whether or not I can go and learn it
and that's a good point, because with a lot of these languages, there's also a lot of documentation that goes along, and all that documentation is in English. So if you're running,
as far as I know,
as far as we know, and if somebody has an issue with that, I wonder how that is. But the whole point is not that they shouldn't learn English or they shouldn't learn anything. We're not advocating for the shutting down of languages altogether. We just like that there's an option now, whereas previously there was nothing available.
It didn't exist.
Yeah,
that's right. So
I think.
Wait, bonus topic.
Oh, we have a bonus topic.
So another thing I saw in the news was that another government body, and I don't want to say Congress or whatever because I don't really follow politics.
DARPA, the CIA.
They ruled that you can actually classify automated cars as drivers now. So if there's a Google car driving down the block or whatever, if there's an accident, you can actually say that it's the car's fault or like the company or the maker. I guess I don't know who.
That would be interesting. I can imagine so many lawsuits.
I mean, something bad has to happen in order for this to actually get figured out.
Can you imagine if
that's just how law works?
Can you just imagine there's a driver on the highway and they're just kind of jealous of this self-driving car and they just like ram into it?
Insurance fraud.
Yeah. and they're like, I blame the car. And the car has like a live feed of like exactly what happened.
Well, I mean, they probably all have like stereoscopic cameras out whenever they get released. So,
so disgruntled drivers, watch what you're doing.
Road rage, beware.
Now, I do think it's interesting because in America, there's such a car culture.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the concerns is, will that disappear after autonomous cars become a thing? Like, do you think there's a place in this world for autonomous and regular driving cars? Or do you think that at this point, if autonomous cars becomes a thing, that it'll be just, I think pretty much most people agree that it'll be safer for everyone. It'll be less hassle for everyone if these cars just drove themselves. And because I don't know what the statistic is, but I'm pretty sure more than 50% of accidents are all human caused. 50. My modest.
Whoa,
like 100%. Yeah, right. Natural disaster. Drunk driving. Human. But like pretty much everyone would agree that it's safer. But is it sexy? Do you want to be in a car that just drives you around like you're some rich guy?
Well, they've already got concepts for automated cars that are, the car is like a living room. The cars, like the seats don't even face the front. They kind of face inwards.
Yeah.
That way you can see the other people that are kind of hanging out in the car with you. So they're limos, which
it's like a stagecoach. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that is.
But what about the guys that like hearing the vroom vroom and the beep beep and the flipping drivers off in the highway and
I honestly,
zooming past at 80 miles per hour?
I honestly don't think that this is something that'll take off within the next 10 to 15 years.
For sure.
Car automation is probably going to be something that'll happen, that'll be widely accepted 50 years from now maybe.
Yeah. Because we have to wait for all of them to die, right? All the car lovers.
Well, no, not that, but like you can't really have 100% reduced error rate unless all of the other stuff that you're working with is also on this like weird interconnected ecosystem.
Yeah.
So like if we have 20 automated cars driving down the highway, and let's say they have to get off the highway, they're not going to be connected to the city's traffic light system. Like, how do they know? Like, there's so many different points of failure.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure they've all taken into consideration.
For sure, yeah.
I don't think that it'll be something that people will widely accept until everything is connected. And, and Amazon owns the city's infrastructure and the cars that are driving on it. And they've partnered with Ford and they control all of Ford too.
Of course.
Shout out to American cars. I don't know. It's something I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see how, like we said, right? Like technology is offering up the solution, right? There are too many accidents on this road, arguably all humanly caused. And once again, technology is stepping in to say, let's see what we can do. But, how exactly that's going to happen? Like, is Amazon going to have to, like, pave their own, like, artificial intelligent road?
RFID roads?
Yeah, where...
Radio.
Yeah, where like, the cars somehow, like, are able to detect these Amazon roads, and these maps have already been preloaded and all this other stuff, and obviously it has to have some kind of sensor or a camera to realize what its surroundings are, and the car essentially has to be a ninja, just look everywhere and be aware of everything. And really, the technology we're seeing is so awesome right now. Like, some of the stuff,
we're really lucky.
Yeah, some of the stuff that we're seeing now is just the baby version of what is possible. And with every new advancement, there's going to be a little bit more pushback, but also there's going to be that crowd that is like, this is becoming a thing. Like we said, with most technological things, you'll see them and you'll kind of roll your eyes and be like, that's not consumer ready, until it is.
Yeah.
And
until it's real.
And then you're like, oh, I never thought how convenient it was to just have this car just show up at my garage, and now it's going to drive me to work, and it's going to do it a lot better than I probably could have done it. And think about it, you can get into a car, you can actually go to sleep and have the car wake you up when you get there.
Man,
and
so it's like private public transportation.
Yeah. And one of the limitations that transportation has right now is that, one, it's not perfectly accessible, so you can't get it exactly when you want it.
Yeah.
And it travels on its own route, so you have to stop wherever you think that bus is going to stop. But this kind of solves both of those issues, because you summoned your car, your car comes to you, and it's like...
so weird. There's so many different things that can happen, though. So going along the same vein, so let's say if you want your car to take you to the mall.
Yeah.
What if there's multiple entrances and it's not all mapped out? Like, how does the car know to go into the parking lot?
Oh, yeah.
How does the car know to pull up inside of the lot and then, like, park somewhere? How do you, like, where are you gonna get out if the place is off of a highway?
I mean, I feel like there's gonna have to be a lot of reconstruction of roads to kind of facilitate to kind of facilitate, like, okay, this is where all the artificial intelligence cars park,
I guess, like,
or
an
like
E-lane.
Yeah, like just optimizing it for these cars. And there's gonna be a lot of things that
hovercrafts can just fix everything.
Somebody's gonna come in flying on a drone. Actually, on CES, like, now at this point, I don't even know what the difference between a drone and a personal helicopter is, but there was a life-size drone at CES that could hold a regular 200-pound man can hold them and fly them somewhere.
Wow.
So,
not a jetpack.
No, like an actual drone,
like a seated.
Yeah,
vehicle.
like they sit inside.
Wow.
They throw down their little cockpit kind of thing, and the drone is given directions of where to go, and it does it. And one of the
comical.
And one of the things with Google is that they've gone on to say that they don't want to include features like the steering wheel and all this other stuff because
failure.
Yeah, they don't want humans to intervene because humans is the issue.
There they go again, trying to be like Apple.
Yeah.
Don't touch our stuff, just let it work.
Yeah, humans are the issue. And
our podcast is running too long for me to ask you the next question I wanted to ask.
Yes. So we're going to have to do not a to be continued, but, look forward to the next episode where we'll continue our point.
Or, listeners, what do you think about Stephen Hawking's and his idea that if we continue the route that we're going with technology, that technology will eventually be the end of the human race?
Ponder that. Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 5 of the Working Podcast. We appreciate, if you guys have stuck with us this long, you guys are awesome.
Our one listener.
Yeah, feel free to give us a review on iTunes.
Give us a 5-star rating. We'd appreciate that.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Wait, hold on. Where can they find us? Where can they find us?
They can find us everywhere. They can find us on Whipcast.
Hit us up on Twitter at Whipcast_radio. Find us on Instagram, Whipcast. Hit us up on Facebook if you want to. Facebook.com/WhipcastRadio. Shoot us an email.
We're going to be working hard on the social media and offer you guys multiple views of what we experience and what we're kind of doing. And we're just gonna clue you guys into everything that we're doing. So
there you go. Yeah. So this has been another episode.
See you guys in the next one. Peace.
Later.
Oh my lord! Oh, this is even longer.
Why don't you use the chair?
Oh.
Why don't you use the chair?
No.